Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. I hope you had a great week. I hope that you're enjoying it's cooler weather, but I kind of like it. I like to go out and ride and do things in this weather, and if I have my riding and I have my riding jacket on, it's kind of hot in the summer, so fall and spring are my favorite seasons, along with Christmas, of course. I am thankful to be here with you for another week. I continue to grind, and I hope you have as well. And you continue to listen, and you continue to share, and you continue to do the things that uplift you and make you stronger, make each of us stronger as we go through challenging times in our lives. Many of you usually get a message if you're on the list announcing the podcast episodes. I kind of paused that for a couple of weeks because I want to see how many people are actually subscribing and sharing out of the group that get it and get the notification. So in case you don't, when you go into YouTube and you hit subscribe, hit that notification bell as well until it's solid, so that whenever an episode is released on a Friday, you will get the notification. But this week, I'm going to talk again inspired by something from my pastor, and it says, nothing in your life is random. So think about that. Nothing in your life is random, and while you do, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and like I said, this week we're going to talk about something that, again, my pastor said to me, and I want to start including a Bible verse every week, just because it's who I am. It's not about what you believe in or I believe in. It's just about us being individuals and practicing who we are as individuals. But this week, and I can't make out who the author is, so my apologies to the author. But it says, nothing in your life is random. Not the timing, not the place, not even the waiting room. Every delay carries a purpose. Every closed door protects you. Every long road prepares you. Even the silence is sacred. You may not understand it now, but God is working in the background, lining up blessings, strengthening your faith, and weaving beauty into the broken places. God's hand is in it all. The highs, the lows, the in-betweens. He's not just watching your story, he's writing it with love. Now, I know we hear a lot of people come, I'm not a pastor, I'm not preaching to you, I'm talking about life. For those of you who believe, are spiritual like me, who believe in our Creator, this message is for you. For those of you who believe there's another force or karma, but you don't necessarily believe in what I believe in, this message is for you. For those of you who don't believe at all, this message is still for you. Because we can all learn from what we've seen and experienced in our lives each day, and choose sometimes not to recognize who we are, whose we are. I've been telling you this long drawn out story every week about my challenges at work. And I keep getting messages, not just from my pastor, but everywhere I turn. And they seem to all be telling me that because you have chosen this path, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That sometimes these difficulties are not to break you, but to build you. Sometimes these difficulties are the wilderness in between point A and point B. Point A being a place of victory, and point B being a new place of victory. And in that wilderness, there's pain. And in that wilderness, sometimes there's suffering. And in that wilderness, sometimes there's heartache. And these are not things that people should look at and say, well, if we have a creator, if there is a God, that should not happen. Because nowhere in the story God writes for our lives does he say that we will not be impacted, that we will not suffer, that we will not go through a wilderness, that we will not endure pain, that we will not endure struggles. What he says is, you will get through it. You will endure. You will overcome if you choose him, because he will go through it with you. Let's go back to the content for this episode. Not his timing, not the place, not even the waiting room. Every delay carries a purpose. Let's talk about that for a second. About 3-4 weeks ago, I was at church, getting ready to leave, and there's a fellow, one of my fellow brothers at church. I have a big truck, so they keep a parking spot for me, and he parks in front of me. I had to go to the airport to pick someone up. Sunday, nice sunny summer day, heavy traffic everywhere. And the unusual thing happened. He comes out to move his car, and he goes back in. I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting. I'm like, I told him, I'm looking at my, I gotta go to the airport. And so I call him on his phone. He said, yeah, I'll be out. And then he comes out, and I see him walking around his car. I say, what's the matter? He says, I can't find my keys. I said, what do you mean you can't find your keys? This is a routine we've been doing forever. And then lo and behold, he looks into the car, and his keys are sitting on the back seat of his car. I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. And the car is locked. And we both look at each other in bewilderment, because this has never happened. And he has one of those cars that, it's an older car, so you can lock your keys in the car, right? The newer cars, if the remote's in the car, it won't lock. At least mine does that. But his car, it locked. Older car. And so we say, okay, I've got to go. We got to get this out. We start trying. His door for an older car had a little space, so we tried prying the door. Eventually, the custodian for the church comes up with a hanger, hands it to me. And after, some time trying and stuff, pop, I get the lock open. But during the time I was trying, he looked at me and he said, Julian, you know this is supposed to happen, right? All this delay, right? It's something that's bigger than us that has this delay involved. And you might just say, well, that's not true. It's just a story where he locked his key in his car. But the weirdest thing happened. He got his car open. I walked over to my car, and in the most improbable angle, there was a screw head in my big truck tire. This screw had managed to miss all the huge knobs. I drive a Tundra. Big tires, big knobs, big wheel. And that somehow made its way in an angle that's very improbable through just the top edge of the sidewall of these tires. Well, here I go. I say, well, these tires are so thick, I'll just pull the screw out. I tried pulling and it wouldn't come out, so I started turning it. As soon as I turned it, I heard tss, the air is coming out. Had to screw it back in. Started inquiring, and my same friend with the car who was locked it for me says, you go up about a mile and a half, 2 miles. There is a tire shop. It looks very decent. It's open on Sundays. Make a long story short, I went up to the tire shop. There were a few people there. It's very busy on Sundays. They took care of my tire. It only cost me like $25 or whatever, and I was on my way. But that is the example of an orchestrated delay. Things that never happened, things that are improbable, and things that happened in sequence. Both him locking his key in his car presented a certain amount of delay, and then me having the screw in my tire and not going on to the airport right away had its own purpose. We may choose to believe in coincidence if we want, but I don't. I believe that when there are things that happen in chaos in the rest of the world, those things are orchestrated to happen. And if it is not my time to be in the midst of that chaos, God will delay me. Some of these things are hard to believe. Some people who don't believe it say, come on, it's just coincidence. I'll tell you something else that happened. I don't know its purpose either. When first moved into my home and I started doing work, I had someone that was helping me with some work. And there are certain things I couldn't handle because of time, and he did them for me. I was paying him. And then there was a disagreement about how we agreed to be paid, and he got upset with me. He was wrong, but he left. I kept calling him back. He didn't come. And then one Christmas, I sent him a message. I said, "Merry Christmas." He answered me. After that, for the next year and a half, almost 2 years, I kept reaching out to him. No answer. He wouldn't respond. Yesterday was it? I think it was yesterday or the day before. I went to the Home Depot near my house. I get out of my truck, and for some odd reason, I remembered when he and I had come there, and we had loaded up some materials in the back of my truck. He didn't have his truck that day, and I had given him a ride. It was a whole thing. And I don't know why I remembered that, but I looked at the parking lot, just brought that familiar moment back to me. And I go to Home Depot a lot because I'm a DIY person, so I'm not sure why it came up. I walk into Home Depot and I raise my head, and the guy is standing right in front of me looking at me. We had a conversation, very cordial, nice conversation. But I was in bewilderment, as it was almost as if something was telling me beforehand, bringing this guy out of nowhere, and he was there. These strange things happen to make you recognize and realize that we're not living here by random. There's no randomness to our lives, whether you believe or not. So why am I bringing that up? Let's go back to the passage. You may not understand it now. Well, let's go back to the story I gave you about the tire and the car lock. Every delay carries a purpose. Every closed door, his door was locked, protects you. Every long road prepares you. Even the silence is sacred. In the times when we say, "God, where are you?" It's sacred. You may not understand it now, but God is working in the background, lining up blessings, strengthening your faith. Remember, I talked about where I am in my career, my job, and I feel like some days I can't make it. I can't go on anymore. Today was one of those days. And it turned out quite differently. I prayed about it this morning, and it turned out it keeps happening. In none of the ways I could have predicted it would have gone. Lining up blessings, strengthening your faith, and weaving beauty into the broken places. I've been talking to you about my environment and how broken my work situation is. I didn't pick this passage was sent to me. God is working in the background, lining up blessings, strengthening your faith, and weaving beauty in the broken places. God's hand is in it all. The highs, the lows, the in-betweens. He is not just watching your stories. He's writing it with love. When you choose to determine and decide and make a decision of who you are, whose you are, despite the chaos in your world, your story is being written with love. Remember, I did an episode a couple of weeks ago about getting into rhythm with God. When you get into rhythm, you'll recognize that in the storm, God was there. In the pain, God was there. In the fear, God was there. In the moments of unknown and indecisiveness, God was there. And when you stood in victory, God was there. No, I'm not preaching to you. I'm uplifting you. I'm telling you a story that when you feel that everything around you is closing in like I have been feeling, when you look at what's going on in politics and in life and in illnesses, God was there. We struggle a lot with things like every day I wake up, it seems these days, and I know someone who has passed on. Some tragically, most sudden and unexpected. Hard to believe. And the first thing you want to say when you see a kind soul pass on is, "God, where were you?" But understand something. Although I pray for a longer life for my reasons and for my children's lives, I've told you I've had children late in my life. I also know the time will come when my job will be done. And my only prayer is that God gives me a long life so that I can be there for them. But I understand that the reward for the life we live is to be where He is, where God is, where our Creator is. No more pain, no more suffering. But while we are here, our duty is to live a life that is uplifting. Live a life that is supporting of others. Live a life that's humane and kind. When we see others in distress, don't turn our heads because we're so busy to care. Take a moment to help someone else. Take a moment in these times when people are struggling financially, people are struggling with health care because of the nonsense that occurred. I know people who had to go back to work when they were just about to retire because their 401k, their retirement money crashed, while others are giddy with joy, making monies off for the backs of us. And I say monies, not money, because they made it in everywhere. Cash, stocks, bonds, everything. We were left holding the bag. But you know what's ironic about that? I want you to show me the person who has lived a life of greed, that has been able to leave here, this planet, wide awake, carrying a suitcase full of money, going to our Creator. Understand where we came from and where we end up. When we're done with this world, we are no more, either by cremation or by burial. This body becomes zero. And all that we fought for, that we hurt people for, that we were insensitive and uncaring about, we leave right here, either for someone to do good with or carry on the evil that we inspired to. We're in times where we need each other. Today I had a conversation with another manager at my job, and we were talking about the infighting that's going on in between teams. Different teams are fighting with each other, and it's crazy because I came in later in the role I'm in now, and I watch and see I'm in the middle of seeing the fighting and recognize that this fighting has been going on for a decade before I got here, for the last 10 years. These people are hating each other to the point of the words that come out their mouths when they refer to their coworkers are filled with hate. They never hit each other. They never hurt each other's lives. They make no impact on each other's income, but yet they found ways to hate each other in a world that's begging for love. And I told this manager, including the manager, we need to re-examine who we are, how we are, what we're enabling others to be, what examples we're setting. For someone like myself stepping in from the outside into this role a few years ago and watching this chaos of hatred, it is absolutely stupid. It makes no sense that people choose to hate each other because he said this about me, or she said this about me, or I asked them for help one time. And now as soon as they start their emails, because they still have to deal with each other, in the first sentence, you can read and feel the aggression and hatred to do their jobs. How can we be people at peace if we're harboring such hatred within ourselves? Not recognizing that for each of us, God has a plan. And all we need to do is execute it as human beings. And watch how much better we will be. Sometimes I get discouraged. As you know, I was gonna end the podcast at one time. I watch people, celebrities and people who thrive on building up and sharing controversy and gossip, make tons of money and get millions of subscribers. Nobody in millions want to hear what I have to say, right? Because feel-good stories and stories of truth and stories of consequence and stories that create self-reflection, stories that will force us to recognize who we are and how we are, and the flaws within ourselves and how much we need to change is not what we want to hear. We prefer to hear the lies and the stories that make us feel good about the wrongs we're doing. Not realizing if we took a moment to care about each other and ourselves, if we took a moment to pay attention to how people receive us and how we sell ourselves as human beings, if we took a moment to realize who we are, whose we are, and to see through the noise and chaos, we would recognize that each and every day, what a beautiful story of our lives He has written. Now I know what some naysayers are going to say. They have seen people born into tragedy. They have seen people born into pain. We've read those stories in the Bible. We see them every day. I've come to realize that sometimes we have to make a huge effort to break the mold. But then many times, if you look at certain families, and I don't want to call names, there's some famous families, tragedy from one generation begets tragedy in the next. But if you look back at their ancestry, you realize how cruel they were. And it's unfortunate that sometimes cruel people and people who have taken advantage of others, people who have done wrongs in the closet, see this type of continuation of tragedy throughout their generations. We also see kind, loving people go through horrible demise. And don't look at me through this camera for an explanation, because I am not the creator. I know nothing about these people's lives entirely. I know nothing about why. I do the same thing that you do. Get down every day. For those of you do, pray for safety, pray for love, pray for my family, pray for long life, health, and strength. And pray that I can be a blessing to someone each and every day of my life. This podcast is my blessing of you, to you. And I'm hoping every time I do so that you'll share it, so someone out there needing a positive word, needing a reminder that we are not in this fight alone. Not only do we have a creator, but we have each other, is really important. So I'm going to end this episode by reading this to you again. Nothing in your life is random. Keep this with you. Not the timing, not the place, not even the waiting room. Every delay carries purpose. Every closed door protects you. Every long road prepares you. Even the silence is sacred. You may not understand it now, but God is working in the background, lining up blessings, strengthening your faith, and weaving beauty into broken places. God's hand is in it all. The highs, the lows, the in-betweens. He's not just watching your story. He's writing it. I'm going to leave you with the prayer that my pastor sent me today. Pastor O'Connor, thank you. It says, "Today, Lord, take me beyond what I often see, hear, and feel. Take me beyond my wishes and wants. Take me beyond what feels good, is comfortable, and stimulates me. Take me to the places where I have to trust the hand of God, the wisdom of God, the plan of God, the purpose of God. Take me to where I have to trust you, even when I'm reluctant to embrace how my life and how the circumstances around me are unfolding. Take me by the surety and assurance of your hand and lead me. Take me, empower, invigorate, and challenge me. Take me on your path today." This is my wish and prayer for you, prayer for me, and for all of us who want to continue walking this journey together, uplifting each other. I do it by God's might, by faith, by prayer. There's goodness in all of you. And together, I promise you, if we decide to stand up and hold each other's hands, to embrace each other, to face the challenges that we're facing now and the challenges to come together as one, we cannot fail. That is the story that has been written for us who choose to know who we are and whose we are. Enjoy your great weekend and a great week ahead. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.